Well, hello and welcome back to the very latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, today I am joined by a very special guest. She is called Laura Buckley and she is the founder of Secret Alchemy. She's a dating coach and a matchmaker, and she is here today to talk with me about the biggest dating mistakes and dating problems that we see through our industry. So, Laura, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. The sun is shining, which isn't always the case right now, but I'm happy with that.
I know it's still a bit chilly though. I did the school run this morning and it was a little bit cold, but I'm down in Brighton, so we've got the wind off the sea.
I was in Brighton a couple of weeks ago, but that's another story for another day. I also did the school run. No, I do like Brighton. I love Brighton. I try and go down there a couple of times a year, and it's lovely. I'm sure I told you that before, but not on the lovely podcast. So before we start, can you tell everyone exactly who you are and what you do and how you got started?
Sure. Yeah, so my name's Laura. I'm a matchmaker and a dating coach. I've recently started delving into this world because before that I was a probation officer for 20 years, and I've just had enough. It was just 20 years is a long time, and I was essentially coaching people who didn't really want to be coached. So it was time to move those skills on and do it, coach people who did want to be coached. And I had a horrible time being single. I really didn't enjoy it at all. I made all the mistakes. I made every single mistake under the sun, literally every single one. And I remember saying to my friend at the time, one day I'm going to use this for good. One day these experiences are going to help me. And I didn't actually really think they would, but it turns out they are. So yeah, so I've moved on from being a probation officer, and I'm trying to now coach and work with people who actually want to work with me, which is great. And I get to talk about love and dating and relationships all day. I love it.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's so different. I used to talk about gangs and knives and guns and things like that, and now I talk about dating. Brilliant.
That's quite a difference. And also you've moved on from being single as well.
I have, yeah. Luckily, it took a while. It took me a long time to get there, but yeah, about 8 years ago, I met John, and we met in London. I was living up in Leeds, and I've been up there for a long time, and things had just got a bit stale. So I moved and went travelling for about 7 months. Came back, moved to London. Yeah, and I met John quite quickly. So now we live down in Brighton together with our son.
Wonderful. Yeah, I do love Brighton. As I keep saying that over and over again during the course of this podcast. I go down there with my family.
Say that.
I know. It's funny, I've got a lot of clients who are also in Brighton, and a couple of other matchmaking companies are in your area as well, who may not have launched. I don't know. Maybe you'll know more about that than I do, but we won't talk about them. This is your podcast today, Laura. This is about you and what you do. But let's talk about dating problems and dating mistakes. Because when I was single, which is over 15 years ago now, I made a lot of dating mistakes. And so much so, I've got my own book on Amazon called The Dating Guru's Funny Dating Stories, which is a book of weird and wonderful first dates I went on that were the weirdest mistakes and weirdest stories. So before we go on to this, do you have any strange dating stories yourself that you'd like to share?
Oh my gosh, I've got so many. When we were deciding about talking about what we were going to discuss today, and we were thinking about bad dating stories and things you should and shouldn't do on dates. And the first thing that came out for me was making sure that you're single when you go on a date. And it's really interesting because I had an experience back in when I was dating in London before I met my husband. And then at the weekend just gone, I had a conversation with one of my friends who'd had exactly the same experience. So you meet somebody, in my experience, I was in the gym. I met a personal trainer. He was very good looking. He was from South America. He was buff. He was lovely. And we flirted a lot, and he asked me out, and I thought, oh, this is good. So we went out on a date, and I was all a bit nervous, all a bit dressed up, but this was lovely. We were getting on really well, making small talk. And then after about an hour, I happened to say, so who do you live with? And he was like, oh, I live in Streatham. And I was like, oh yeah, who with? And he was like, my girlfriend. And I was like,
wow.
Eh? And then because I just got really embarrassed and thought it was me and thought I'd misunderstood and that we were just friends. But then I sort of carried on and pretended I wasn't fazed by it because I was embarrassed. And then when he tried to kiss me later on, I realised that, yeah, he thought he was on a date as well. So always make sure that you're single before you're going out on dates, because exactly the same thing happened to my friend last week with a guy that she met on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. So no one mentioned the fact that they were in a relationship. It just didn't come up in conversation, I suppose, did it?
No, didn't pop up. And then so you think you're going out on a date. They think they're going out on a date, but they're not single. So that's the biggest fail, isn't it?
It is. You were kind enough to share that story with me on my Instagram the other day, which is James Preece Coach for anyone listening. My Instagram and Secret Alchemy. Is that your link to your Instagram? There we
It
go.
is, yes.
I've just name dropped those two in there. Why not? I never do that enough, so I'll throw that in the mix. Do follow us as James Priest Coach and Secret Alchemy. See what we're up to. See the amazing stories that we share and the post on there. But you share the story with me, and I want you to ask some questions about this. So I'm pleased that you've brought this up now. This is all about dating mistakes and dating problems. Now, you went on this date with this gentleman. He didn't tell you that he was in a relationship. Was he expecting just to date you, just to have a bit of fun? What was he thinking?
Well, when I asked him about it, I was like, what? Like, I don't understand, explain. And he was like, well, we're not going to be together very much longer. We're going to split up soon. And I was like, I mean, what can you say to that? You're definitely not my new boyfriend.
You're not.
This isn't going to work.
And then you lose any trust and respect instantly in that person. And you think, if I end up with this guy, he's going to treat me in exactly the same way. So you're not going to enter into anything. So he's wasting his own time and wasting yours.
Absolutely. We'd been talking for a number of weeks as well in the gym. So he was my personal trainer. So I was seeing him every week. We were chatting. Never came up that he had a girlfriend. Never. So I don't know, he could have waited if he wanted to split up with his girlfriend, fast forward a few weeks, then ask me out. That would have been acceptable. But no.
Yeah, no,
make sure you're single.
Make sure. Yeah, of course. And that's not good. I'm sure I've dated many people who weren't completely single in my time. But it happens now. Even now, I'm helping people get into dates, and they're dating people who are multi-dating. And that's absolutely fine. If you're dating people early on, going out on a few dates here and there with people, nothing serious, that's absolutely fine. But if you're in a full-blown relationship and living with somebody, then no. No.
It's a no from me.
It's a no from me too. That's nil point. So that's it. Nil point. Okay, so let's talk about other dating mistakes people make. Because I'm going to bring one up now as well, and I'd like your thoughts on this. And lots of people go on dates, and there's two mistakes here at once, because I always like to bring up multiple things at once, because that's how my brain works. First of all, the biggest problem is they will go on the date for hours and hours and hours when it goes well. And I think the idea is, if it goes well, keep it relatively short, and then you've got something for next time. If the excitement is there, keep them wanting more, give them a chance to miss you. And then the second problem that comes into this is drinking too much alcohol. And when these two things combine, when you go on long, long dates with lots and lots of alcohol, things are going to go very wrong. Before I go into my little stories about this, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I totally agree. One of my biggest bugbears when I talk to people is overinvestment. And that's exactly what you're talking about there. If you go on a long date with somebody that you've just met, you're over-investing your time. I really don't even like it when people go on a first date on a Friday or a Saturday night. I'm like, you don't know this person yet. You don't know them well enough to give that amount of your weekend to them. Spend that Friday and Saturday nights with your friends, book a coffee date. Don't spend a lot of time. And oh my gosh, you're totally right about the alcohol. I've been there. We've all done it. When you meet someone, you've had a few glasses of wine. Well, you meet them, you think they're okay. Then you have a few glasses of wine, and then you think they're the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. And then before you know it, it's 2:00 in the morning and you're rolling home. And you go away with a very distorted view.
You do. I've had so many. I don't drink much nowadays, but when I was single, I drank quite a bit. I was an actor, I was a single man, I was going out on lots of dates. I knew all the 2-for-1 places in London. I knew what I was doing, and it worked really well. But that wasn't really my issue. But a lot of women I went out with were drinking too much on these dates, and it wasn't really my fault. I remember one of them, absolutely stunning lady. I thought she wasn't going to be who she was, and she was amazing. Had gotten really, really well. We drank about a bottle of wine between us. Told me she was a big drinker, a big party goer, and going about the parties she goes to. So I got another bottle of wine, and it was going really, really well. And suddenly her eyes glazed over. And then a tsunami of red wine vomit came across the table.
No.
All over me. And she was absolutely mortified. Oh. So that is a story that I'll never forget in my life. And then we went outside. It was pouring with rain. We got her a taxi, but she was crying her eyes out. She was so mortified. And that always helped me realise, don't drink too much. And make sure that you don't expect someone to drink too much either. I mean, really, it was a bottle of wine each. That's not a huge amount for most people. For me, now, I'll probably be drunk on one glass. But back in the day, she told me she was drinking every day, and it wasn't the case. So that's something else. Don't pretend to be someone that you're not as well. Would you agree that's quite a common mistake?
Yes, definitely. I think people put on a facade, don't they? I mean, you want to show the best version of yourself when you go on a date, absolutely. But you don't want to show a side of you that isn't you, because it's not going to work then, is it? If you're getting into a relationship with somebody and they like that version of you, but that version of you isn't a real person, then they're not going to be coming back. But to go back to your last comment, did you see that woman again?
No, I would have liked to because we got on really well and I felt sorry for her.
Yeah.
But I did text her the next day saying, "Look, hope you're feeling better," and then she was just mortified, and that was the end of it. Really,
Yeah,
why?
that's probably the easiest way,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it was. I would have liked to. I've been up for it. But then imagine that 5 years later, we're telling people how we first met and how she threw up over me. It's not the
Yeah.
best story to tell people. Probably say we met
No.
on Tinder or something, wouldn't we? It'd be a lot less embarrassing. But
I can tell you a similar kind of situation when I met my husband, actually thinking about it.
yeah,
So we were in London. I'd actually been out on a date. The day had gone okay, but I was just heading back home. I was at a bus stop and I thought, oh, that's the pub where people from work are having after work drinks. I'll pop in, even though I'd already had quite a lot of wine. So I went in and I was at the bar and I saw my now husband and I was like, oh, he's quite attractive. And I rolled over to him and I was just, oh, blah, 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 blah. And now I look back and it's quite embarrassing. But at the time, obviously, I thought I looked amazing. And yeah, but he gave me his number or I gave him my number and he did call me the next day and we did go out on a date and I remained sober. But I had had a few drinks when I met him.
I think sometimes a couple of drinks can help if you drink alcohol. One of my first coaching questions I ask people when I'm giving them first date advice is, "Do you drink alcohol?" Because I did not insist they drink alcohol. That's a very clear thing. Because not everyone does nowadays. Because people do it for religious reasons, for health reasons, and there's no reason why you have to. But I think it can give you a bit of confidence initially. But then, if you go too far, it goes back into the other category of being someone that you're not. When you start being a bit overly flirty, overly loud, and showing off. And I was very prone to that myself, trying to show off and impress people, which goes back again to being something that I'm not, because I used to do, cringing now, I've started so I finished. I used to do magic routines, psychic readings, all these things,
Really?
yeah, to try and be entertaining. Even I still do now. I've incorporated part of this in some of my coaching sessions now, actually, because what I've realised is that a lot of people are very similar, and they will tell me similar things. So I like to write down what they're going to tell me before I even ask them the question. And this is it just for my own amusement, really, because then they think, wow, that makes me think now that I am not selling myself in the right way. But that's another story. That's one of my coaching techniques. But the point being, I used to try and entertain people. And being an entertainer, I suppose I still am to some degree now, thinking about it. Nothing's really changed, is it? But if you try too much, it went wrong, because sometimes you freak people out doing this. And I would tell them the name of their dead grandmother or something like that, which would just be a lucky guess. And then they'd be freaked out. And then the date goes downhill after that. So it's really important that you only be who you are, your true, authentic self. Now, we've all got different layers to us. We've got 4 or 5 different layers. For example, you might have confidence, followed by a bit of shyness, followed by confidence. And we're not just one thing in life. I don't believe we're all just introverts or we're just extroverts. Things can change like the weather. So people can change all the time. What other common dating mistakes do you see the most?
Oh, the good old chestnut of talking about an ex. That's
Yes.
always a big one. And I think we were talking about the alcohol, and I think if you're going to drink quite a bit as well, people's mouths get a little bit loose and they start talking about things they might not usually talk about.
Mm.
And talking about an ex is a big one. I mean, I don't know about you, but like if I go out when I was dating, if I was going out on a date and somebody started talking about their ex, there's nothing more off-putting, because it just makes you think they're not over them. It just makes you think they're not thinking about you and they're not focused on the date. And it's just, for me, it's just a big no-no. I mean, people seem to, when you watch like things like Love Island, not that I watch those anymore, but like dating shows, they're really quick to talk about their exes.
Mm.
Really, really quick. Comes up in conversation. Oh, how long have you been single? Oh, well, I was in a relationship. No, I've been single for 3 years. I've done, and you just think, why? Why get to know each other? Why do you need to explain all that? Obviously, you have that conversation at some point, but does it need to be on the first date? I don't think so.
It doesn't. I do hear this a lot. You're absolutely right. People tell me that they sat down and before they know it, that someone's complaining about their ex or a bad divorce they're going through, or how that their ex-partner is off dating loads of people and they're just jealous. And it goes on. The focus needs to be on each other and getting to know each other, because what's happened to you in the past has made you who you are. And it's pretty much irrelevant in that moment in terms of what's going to happen next. If you make someone feel awkward or you're comparing them to that person, then what's the point? You have to be over them. Don't talk about an ex. Talk about the future, things you might do together in the future. That's what I recommend. But of course, yes, sometimes people's exes are stuck in their lives, whatever reasons. Maybe you've got children or you work together. But even so, it's not the time or the place to go into that. People often ask the big question on a first date, well, how long have you been single, or why are you single? And people take that as quite a negative thing sometimes. But I don't really see it as that. I know it's a very dull question people get asked, and people hate having to justify why they're single. But it's not really about that. I would say they're just trying to make conversation. They're just curious to start the ball rolling about what you're really looking for. What do you think? Is that a good question or a bad question to ask?
I think it's an okay question, but I used to hate being asked why I was single. And I guess that was come back to my insecurity at the time and my self-esteem, because why are you single? Why are you single? And it was like, well, I just haven't found the most amazing person for my life yet. And they're around, I just haven't found them. Whereas actually, why are you single? That question implies that there's something wrong with me. Or that's how I took it. So I used to hate that question. But I think you're right. But it is about focusing on, what are you looking for the future? What qualities do you want in a partner? So you're taking it off the you and the me and putting it onto what qualities are important? What would you like in a partner? That kind of stuff, as opposed to tell me why you're single. Because I just used to hate that. And it is important, those questions do come up. But I also think if people are starting to ask those kind of questions, you think, God, you're a little bit dull, really, aren't you? Come on, this is a first date. We really need to get to know each other and see if there's a spark. Just dredging up all the why you're single is just a bit boring, really.
But like you said, that's down to your insecurities, and you're interpreting
Absolutely.
that as a negative thing. But really, I would say people might be asking that because they're just surprised, thinking that you're an amazing catch, and they're very lucky to be sat opposite you, and therefore asking why you're single. Why are you single? But that again could be interpreted. Well, what's wrong with you? You're so amazing that you're still single. That could be.
Yeah.
But that's another mistake people make, I think, in dating. They interpret things in the wrong way, and they look for things to go wrong and reasons why it's not going to work, rather than reasons why it will.
Definitely.
Is that something you think is quite common?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. People are always looking for things to go. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? So, I used to do that a lot. It's like, oh, I've met this really amazing guy. He's really amazing. He's really amazing. It will definitely go wrong. And I did it when I met my husband. I remember saying to my best friend, he's such a nice guy. He's just amazing. He's brilliant. I really like him. I'm going to end it. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, he'll hurt me, won't he? And she was like, well, maybe, but you've got to be in it to win it. If you don't know, you've got to try. And so I was very much of that mindset when I was single, very much so.
People do. People often reject the other person before they get a chance to reject them.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot with matchmaking as well. You'll probably come to realise this. This happens a lot.
Yeah.
You'll see patterns of this. And I tell people that people don't always know if you like them or not. And if they like you more than they think that you like them, they'll often go to the matchmaker and say, well, okay, they're very nice, but not really for me. Because they don't want to get hurt. And self-sabotage, it's the word of the year. Every podcast I'm doing, I mention self-sabotage. Last year, it was narcissism and toxic relationships. This year seems to be about self-sabotage. Yeah. And that's an interesting topic in itself. But people do that. They look for reasons why it's going to go wrong. Because they don't really believe that it's going to work. And it's based on bad patterns in the past, isn't it? Let's talk about that quickly, about negative patterns and bad patterns. And what sort of things do you see that come up the most?
People who don't date outside of their type. It's interesting you talked about the matchmaking there, because you do hear that a lot. Don't fancy them, they're not my type. You've only seen a picture, and a spark is so much more than a picture. So people who don't date outside of their type is a really big problem. It's about being a bit more open-minded. I can give an example. Way before I met my husband, before I moved from Leeds, I was dating a guy on and off for 2.5 years, and I was really into him, but he was definitely not my type. And if I'd have seen him on swiping on Tinder, I would never have swiped for him, because he just didn't look how I expected my partner to look, and definitely wasn't like I expected my partner to be. But I was really attracted to him, and I needed to open my mind a little bit more. So I kind of feel like people need to be a bit more open-minded.
I definitely agree with you, and it's a common problem what I see all the time. People are looking at someone's picture on these apps or on their profiles and saying, no, not attracted to them. And I find as a coach, it's really hard to get them to change their mind on that. No matter how much I argue the case, they're always very stubborn. Do you think people have a certain type and that's what they're going to go for? Are people just attracted to what they're attracted to, and you can't really change that? What do you think?
I think people think they're attracted to their type, but then when they, like when you think about Sex and the City, Charlotte and Harry from Sex and the City, I love that relationship because he's totally not her type, and she changed her type. She went for something different and she found love. And I just feel like if it's not working for you with your traditional type, maybe date outside of your type and then see what happens. I'm not saying I'm definitely going to marry somebody who's completely unlike my usual type, but try it. That's what dating's all about. It's about having different experiences and meeting different people. You just don't know. So the other thing that we hear quite a lot is height. I
Yep.
definitely can't. Women will say, I definitely can't date anybody who's less than 6'2". And you think, well, the average height of a guy in the UK is 5'9". So straight away you're ruling out a lot of people. And again, you think, really, just for a couple of inches of height?
I always say to them, what's more important to you? Finding the man of your dreams or being able to wear high heels? And even then, what is wrong with a woman wearing high heels and being taller than a guy if it's the right guy, if they're both completely confident? Again, it's insecurities, isn't it? That's what causes
Absolutely.
this. And you're right. I get women who are 5'0" saying, I want a 6 foot guy all the time.
Yeah.
I think save those 6 foot guys for the 5'11", 6 foot women. Because then it's a little bit awkward, isn't it? Because there are a lot of tall women out there as well. And I think there are exceptions. And it's a common thing. But people tend to be more open-minded on that, I think, eventually. I can persuade them more to do that.
Yeah.
But if they look at someone's picture and think, oh my goodness me, he looks like my uncle or looks like an old teacher and it's the way they're dressed. I said, you know what? They might look bad in that picture. And to be honest, men tend to look pretty horrendous in most pictures because men aren't going around taking pictures, which is why I think we both work with good companies who specialise in taking pictures, don't we?
Definitely.
A lot. And that can really make the absolute difference, particularly for you guys. And even women who aren't going around taking pictures for dating sites, get some professional pictures of you looking nice rather than just being out there drinking loads of drinks at a wedding because that's the only picture of you socialising that you've got. Because we've had COVID. People haven't been going out socialising. The opportunity hasn't come. And that's another big mistake, actually, isn't it? People have absolutely terrible pictures on their profiles.
Terrible pictures. I've been doing quite a lot of dating profile cleanups, if you like, for some of my clients recently, and it's just brilliant. But I'm saying the same things to every single one. What are these photos? What are they like? Oh, it's me showing that I'm fun. Like, okay, so you're out in the pub and there's like 6 people in the photo. I don't know which one's you. And oh, that's you at the back. Okay, I can just see the top of your head. You know, this isn't going to help you get dates. That would put me off as somebody who was scrolling through. So photos are so important. But as somebody who really hates having their photo taken, and my dating profile photos were always dreadful. Now, having been to see our friends over there with the photography, oh my gosh,
we can mention them. We can mention them.
It's can we? Yeah. Oh, okay. Our friends at Hey Saturday, they are amazing at making you look amazing. Like the photographs that I had taken, I'm so happy with them for my business as opposed to for a dating profile. But I mean, they're just so much better than I expected. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wish these were around when I was dating because it makes such a difference.
It really does. I had my pictures taken by Hey Saturday. I'm probably due for an update now, but I haven't really got time. It's always nerve-wracking having a new photo shoot, and I hate that. I personally hate my picture taken. My wife always wants to take my picture, and I haven't got enough family pictures of me and my boys, and she's trying to make me do more of them, and I hate it. But if you have a professional taking them, someone like Saskia from Hey Saturday, one of her team, it can really make you a difference. Particularly when you're scrolling through these terrible, terrible pictures of people.
Yeah.
And there's so much bad information about this on the internet. And even on documentaries. I watched Tinder Swindler the other day. Have you seen that?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah, that's another conversation. But
it's a whole other podcast.
But then you've got this very attractive lady on there saying how she's got 1,000 matches on Tinder, giving out her advice, saying that have a group picture of you with your friends, like you just said. But this stupid idea, because they're going to judge you based on your social circle. If they think these people are more attractive than they are, they're not going to want to hang out with them. They're going to feel competitive. Or they're going to look at them and think, who are these people? They look like they're drunk. Which one are you in the picture? And this is the reason why the lady out of Tinder Swindler was struggling to get dates, even though she had 1,000 matches. Bad advice out there. So you need to have good pictures, have nice clear ones of just you looking at the camera, looking friendly and looking approachable. And I think that one of the biggest problems that I see when I'm going through these profiles, and I do this every day, I go through people's profiles, picking them apart, and I have to warn them in advance that I'm going to be doing that before I even see it. Because I've never yet seen the perfect profile. And I've come close, but I've never seen the perfect one. And one of the biggest problems is people don't smile in their first picture. Do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. You want to be warm. You want to be open. You want, if you're being grumpy in your first photo, people are just going to swipe. You need to be open. You need to be welcoming, warm. The other thing as well with profiles is people write the same stuff. And you just, oh, I want somebody who's confident and caring and kind. Oh, it just makes me fall asleep.
That's my point. This is why I write things down that they're going to tell me before they even do it. They write generic, boring things in their profile. For example, one of the biggest dating problems is they write in there that they want someone who spends time with their family and friends, or they like going out but also like staying in. They like eating. They like watching Netflix, but they also like going to theatre. They like working out. Women love to do yoga all the time as well, and men like, and they also like to travel as well, but never say where they've been to recently. They're just cliches after cliche, because I think people don't put too much effort into this because they've got a fear of rejection again. Going back to the self-sabotaging, they're thinking, if I make full effort in this, have amazing pictures, and write an amazing profile, and still don't get any matches, then it's personal. If I don't make an effort properly, and I can always say, well, it wasn't my fault, it was the app, or it was the matchmaker, they can blame somebody else. I think blaming someone else and not taking personal responsibility is a huge problem.
Definitely. But I think you've got to think about your profile as a way to give people an in. So, like in the olden days when women would like drop their hankies on the floor so the guy had a reason to pick the hanky up and give it back to them. It's a similar kind of thing. So with your profile, you kind of need to be giving a guy or a girl a way in. So you drop something in your profile that's really stands out, is quirky, and makes people stop the scrolling and gives them a reason to answer that question or to comment. But on honesty, caring, considerate, compassionate,
loyal.
Loyal.
That's it. That's on my list. It is.
Yeah.
I always say to people, what makes you different to everyone else? And they give me the same things. But you're right. I always call them hooks in these profiles. Full of hooks. Ask questions, make statements, say funny things, have things in your profile. If you're on, say, Hinge, for example, use prompts that will start conversations rather than ones that are just generic statements. Like, I don't like eating bananas. I've seen that one before. I said, why did you write that? Oh, guys like it. Guys comment on it. Well, they might comment on it. There's nothing else to comment on your entire profile. This is the one thing that they can find, which is about bananas. That's it. Everything else is just boring and dull. And the same thing with your pictures. Have hooks in your pictures. You doing interesting, fun things, so they can say, where was that picture taken? What book are you reading? What are you doing there? What's that sport? How do you find that? And I like to get their opinion. Asking opinions is always really, really good. If nothing else, if you get into a conversation, ask someone that we're not a great match for each other. That's quite obvious. But what about my profile could I change? Ask the people you're interacting with. Why not? You're not going to date them. You might as well get something out of them.
Tell you what else is quite interesting as well, which I had with one of my clients the week before last. And she felt that she put across on her profile that she was fun, party girl, really up for it, because that 5 years ago was what she was. She hadn't really changed her profile.
Up for it in what sense?
Well, up for partying, up for a good time, up for being out all the time, up for meeting guys. And she was like, I'm not like that anymore. So she was like, I'm worried that when I meet people from that website or from that app, that they think there's going to meet somebody like that, but actually I'm like this now because I'm a few years older, and actually I like having my slippers on and a cup of tea and doing things a bit differently. I don't want to be out partying all the time. So we overhauled her profile to kind of reflect where she is now and what she wants, and because that's it, people never write their profile, they write it just generically. I think they don't really put in what they want as well. You need to have a focus on what you want and also what you're looking for. So she really overhauled it, and then literally the next day she sent me a screenshot of this conversation that she was having with a guy who had seen the old profile but had also seen the updated profile, and it was brilliant. His feedback was just spot on, and I was like, yes, this is why we need to do it. This is exactly why you need to overhaul your profile.
You do. This brings you on to probably the last thing we can mention now, biggest dating problem. People keep doing the same thing and don't make any changes and don't ask for any help. Because these apps and these sites, they don't give you help in the way that you want it. There's generic advice on there, but really, no one knows what to write in their profile to sell themselves. It's copywriting, isn't it? It's marketing. So I think one of the biggest things you can do to change that is to come to an expert or a coach like us and get our expert help to help you write a profile that's going to attract the right sort of people that you want. Because we know how to shortcut this. If you're going out on dates with boring people and it's not going anywhere, or you're not getting the right sort of matches, or your algorithm scores have all dropped on these apps because no one's interested in you, then we can fix that. We can make this work for you. And the same with a matchmaker. Go to a matchmaker, because matchmakers, just like you, have a good database of people who are looking for the same sort of thing and like-minded. There's a lot of time-wasting people, men and women out there, Not that they're doing it intentionally necessarily, but they're not really sure what they want, therefore they don't settle. They don't really agree to go into a relationship. They're just looking for many hits, as much of an ego boost as they can get. I think turning to a professional is a really good idea. I know you're going to agree with me, but can you back that for
me? Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I just wish that I'd done it when I was single. I really do. I don't know. I just don't think I knew about it when I was single. And also the coaching. I wish I'd done dating coaching when I was single, just to move over, like, the obstacles that I had I was my biggest obstacle. And if I'd had somebody to go through that with me and to work over the decisions that I was making and try and push me in a different direction, and also confidence. Confidence is such a big thing for everybody at the moment. The amount of times I hear, well, I'm just not very confident. And then when you pick that apart, it's really clear where that's come from. But yeah, coaching, matchmaking is just, if you're stuck in a rut with dating, it's definitely worth having somebody take a look and exploring it.
It really is. People think, well, it's so expensive, I can't afford to do that. But can you afford not to do that? Think of the money you're going to save going out on terrible dates, buying outfits all the time, getting your hair done. You would soon, if it's better to get quality rather than quantity. And going out with anybody is okay. It's an ego boost, but it's not going to help you. A small investment now really can make a huge difference. One of the biggest things people tell me is that they wish they found me sooner. Like you just said now, you wish you had a dating coach sooner.
Oh,
if you'd have come to me a few years ago when you were single, maybe I could have helped you. But
I know
times are changing and it's evolving. Like you said, people have got less confidence. People have got more anxiety than ever before. We're nervous about going out, nervous about meeting people. People don't really want to be using these apps in the same way they were doing before. They're much more serious, and they are turning to matchmakers, which is why I'm very lucky that I'm so busy, because I work with many matchmakers, and you'll be lucky that you're doing this at the perfect time when people need you.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I think that's wonderful. We've come to the end now already. I can't believe that. So
loads more dating results.
I know. I've got another call after this. But if someone wants to find out more about you and Secret Alchemy, how can they do that?
Right, well, you can find me on Instagram, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'll be under my own name on LinkedIn, which is Laura Buckley. On Instagram, it's Secret Alchemy, and then we've also got a website, which is www.secretalchemy.co.uk.
Fantastic. Hopefully people will go and check you out and see what you do.
I hope so. Come and say hi.
Come and say hi, and why not? And also give us your feedback on this podcast as well. Anything that you've learned from this that you found useful, anything you want to cover in a future podcast, let us know. You can reach out to Laura or reach out to me at James Preece Coach, and we'd love to hear from you. Laura, thank you so much. It's gone really well. I really enjoyed talking to you. I know we could talk a lot more, and I know that we will do. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Lovely. Thanks for having me, James.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.